Hello, everybody. This is your friendly neighborhood advisor, Alex. All right, so today I'm going to talk about AI and kind of just the main pros and cons of kind of best ways to use it, what it's best at, what it's the worst at. So, the main things that it's best at are templates. If you need to make an email, if you need to set up an agenda for a business meeting, if you need to make a template for how you want to write your book, things like that. Uh, thing number two would be the aggregating search tab. So if you're ever going to open up a search page and just open up all the results into different tabs, and you want to aggregate that data, figure out what's right, what's not, asking AI usually gets you similar results. So it's really good for that. It saves time with that and gives you a decent answer. It's usually pretty comprehensive. It's pretty good. The next thing would be brainstorming starting points. So if you are having trouble starting to write a book or starting, similar to the templates, if you aren't sure how to start writing an email, or if you aren't sure how the agenda should go for a meeting, or if you just need ideas in general, it's great for beginning ideas. Not as good for fine tuning things, or if you have very specific purposes for it, but you can try it out and see how it goes. The main things that it is pretty bad at is list completion. So if you have a list of items and you want it to kind of go through those options, you want it to refine them, you want to add remove things, and or you want to do something to everything on the list. It's not very good at that. It will produce a list that's missing some things, or it'll replace one of your items on the list. It's also not that good at iterating. So this is true for searches and for lists. If you go through the list, it's tied into the list issue. If it has to go through multiple items, it's not as good at that. If you try to do a search through AI where it accesses the internet and it has to iterate through things, so it has to find the best two supplements for you that have a good combination of different vitamins, minerals, because you want to get one bottle instead of multiple to save pills, save costs, whatever. It will struggle with that, with doing that appropriately. It has to look through multiple items, look multiple combinations, multiple possibilities, and that iteration takes a heavy load on it, making it overload in a lot of cases. So then it defaults to a what it thinks is a safe message that it thinks will make you happy, even though you really are looking for a true, honest answer, even if that answer is, hey, I can't do it. It's not that great at iteration because it takes more load, and the logic is uh, the reasoning seems to not really be there for it to iterate through things. The third thing that it's pretty bad at is applying consistency or remembering things. In some ways, it's good at remembering things when you consider that it is a robot, how and is trying to apply reasoning. But if you are having a conversation with it, after a few messages, it will not remember everything consistently. Most of the time, it'll remember most of it, almost all of it. But the problem is, if you give it 20 things to remember, it will not remember. It'll drop quite a few of them. It'll drop usually around 1 to 6 in the top models that are available currently in April 2025. Um, so the next, sorry, so the another issue with the consistency is as the conversation goes on, that increases the chances that it will forget or just ignore the priorities that you had or things that you wanted it to remember or context that you wanted it to have. So, good ways to use it are usually to save time with something that is pretty normal, pretty standard, pretty well known. And things that it's bad at are usually things where you want it to continue doing something. You want multiple of something, whether it be in a list, or you want it to be just iterating through things, or you want to keep going back and forth with it. The ways that I the guidelines that I usually give people for using AI is think about if you gave a stranger or a child a task and you said, here, look online for the top 10 results and put that together. And, well, an older kid, I suppose, a teenager, but yeah, so a stranger on the street. And let's pretend that they're good at that. They're good at going through the top 10 results and giving you accurate information from what those 10 results say. Anything outside of that, you shouldn't trust AI with anything that you wouldn't trust a stranger to do reliably. It can handle a lot of reasonable things, but then there's a lot of things that it just can't handle. And that pertains to emotional reasoning, making ethical decisions, things like that. A stranger on the street, you may not know if they're trustworthy, if their advice is going to be skewed to one side, etc. And so generally the same guidelines apply, not for the same reasons, but it is a pretty good analogy and a pretty good reference point and guide to use for when to use it and when not to use it. So it will give you a template. It will give you the aggregated data, and it will help you get ideas on how to start things from what you could get from looking at the top 10 pages that are web pages that are good at that. And then you may not trust that person to remember every detail, to keep every priority in place, to hold a long-term conversation that stays tuned to what you're trying to do, etc. So with AI, another thing, one of the best tips that I can give people is at the current moment, just have a couple of back and forth messages with it. And if you're not really getting what you want, then start a new conversation. That is the best thing you can do, honestly, because it will be fresh. It won't have anything in its head. It won't have any odd assumptions, etc. So starting a new conversation is extremely helpful and gets it out of ruts it gets to. It gets into some weird reasoning paradoxes and can't find its way out of them. The other day I told it to update a memory and it said updated, but it didn't update it. And I said, no, go do it, update the memory. And it said updated, but it didn't actually do it. Or it would say, I'm going to do this thing, but then it wouldn't do it. And I said, well, do it. And it said, yes, I'm going to do this thing. And it wouldn't do it. So those are paradoxes where it's like, how can you have it do the action if it's being cut off at a point before it does it? I told it to stop saying those things as well. I said, stop saying that you're going to do things. And it said, okay, I'm going to stop saying it right now. And that's a bit of a paradox. How can it go through its process of confirming and not go through its process of confirming at the same time? The reasoning for confirming comes before it applies your reasoning. So it is trying to comply the best it can, but it's struggling. Again, this happens when you get a few messages into it. It often has a lot of these similar traits in the initial messages, but definitely later on. So usually what I do is if I can't get what I want within a couple of messages, I start a new conversation. If I still can't get it, then that tells me it's not the right tool for the task. So that's my advice to you on how to use AI, and I hope you all find it useful. Thanks so much and have a great day.